Welcome everyone, Costin here with a discussion about the best paid DLC legendary lords in the game at the moment. I'm especially going to be focusing on those legendary lords that add something substantial to their faction, to the race, to the campaign, in the sense that they are so powerful for a particular faction that in some cases you might consider them the baseline of that faction. You know who that one is. There is one legendary lord that fits that bill perfectly, but there are others as well that add a significant amount of power to an already existing faction in their own campaigns. And that's really what I'm going to focus on here. Not just another legendary lord that basically plays the same, but something that is different in some way, shape, or form. Substantially different in some cases. So to kick it off, we have the Sisters of Twilight at number 5 on this list. The Sisters are part of a pretty good race. I would say that Wood Elven campaigns can be something stale, to be honest. They're too defense-oriented, though if you want to play a more defense-oriented campaign and not be stuck expanding across the entire globe just to make your campaign win, you can certainly get pretty far with the Sisters of Twilight, or with the Wood Elves in general. But what makes them special? What makes them really good? Well, the faction benefits is that they get the Forge of Dave, ammunition 10% for all armies, and a volley ability for all Hawk Rider units. That's a cruise missile, as people have described her. So every single Hawk Rider is significantly more powerful when being played by the Sisters of Twilight. And then of course there is the Lord effect, which is upkeep for missile units, melee attack for flying units, and charge bonus for flying units. Basically, what the Sisters of Twilight do is that they take a faction, a race, that already has 2 Doom stacks available to them, be it the Glade Guard and Waywatcher Doom stack, or combination of both of them, and then the second one being the Tree Spirit Doom stack, both of which are available pretty early on, both of which are incredibly powerful, 2 of the most powerful armies in the entire game. And they can make an additional Doom stack on top of that. Now, I'm not necessarily too fond of it, but they can make a Doom stack of Hawk Riders, more or less, of flying units that use cruise missiles across the map. That is incredibly potent, and they themselves are really good combatants, because they're a ranged flying unit. They start on a Hawk, they get the dragon after that, if you want it. Now, I prefer to use the dragon as a summon, have them fly on the Hawk, but hey, you want a dragon as a mount with two ladies that are already incredibly potent archers, flying archers that can do a lot of damage. Archer heroes in general, or archer lords in general, are fairly weak in my view. Line of sight issues, not enough damage, less useful in melee. They're not weak. They're good in every single aspect of combat. They won't win in a melee fight against something like Taurox as an example, but they'll hold their own against most other threats. Beyond just the ability of decimating entire armies pretty much on their own. There are Doom stacks with these Sisters on their own, or with Ariel, the Avatar of Isha. Incredibly powerful, incredibly strong. And they do add a different playstyle to a campaign. And then on top of that, there is the Forge of Dave. The Forge of Dave gives you incredibly good items that you can craft and perfect. Like for instance here, if I were to use some of this resource that you get, or rather it's like just waiting for it to go up. But if you use this, you can get, like, I can get an item and that gives me 25% income from post-battle loot. Significant for the Wood Elves in particular. They do have a decent economy, but they are really a faction that relies more on post-battle loot and sacking settlements, or raising settlements. So you can get, like, the Dragon Mask, or if I look at other items that are useful, you can get a cloak that gives you upkeep for all your armies, or boots that give you campaign movement range. All of that. Like, there are some incredibly items here, and you can get them temporarily to a perfected state where they will give even stronger benefits. So really, the Sisters are one of the strongest Wood Elven campaigns out there. I mean, the Wood Elves are in a pretty okay spot, but they are going to change the way you play the game, or could change the way. You don't necessarily need to use Hawk Riders. I personally prefer not to, but where they start here in the Witchwood, if I look over there, in the Witchwood, they have this structure at tier 2, and this gives them Hawk Rider recruitment as well as missile strength 5% at level 2 to all armies. At level 3, it's 10% missile strength, so they're already making a powerful ranged faction more powerful with that. And they have the ability to go with the Flying Doom stack from pretty early on. That makes them incredible. And number 4, it is going to be Helman Ghorst, the Caravan of Blue Roses. This guy was considered the joke until Immortal Empires came out. Now he's one of the most feared legendary lords on the campaign map. As someone put it, you expand your empire and then you enter the Darklands and then you see this guy with his massive empire. Or not so massive empire, but you know you're in for a challenge when you enter the Darklands to try and head east. Helman Ghorst used to be a major joke in both Warhammer 1 and 2. He was the least interesting of all the Vampire Count's lords. Now he certainly has got a lot of interesting things, though I personally don't like his playstyle, but it can't be argued that he is very, very strong. But why is that? Well, vampires have Raise the Dead, which is a special recruitment. Like if you fight battles or you have certain structures or both in a certain region or province, you can gain special vampiric recruitment. It's pretty much the same cost or even cheaper than regular recruitment. So it is a way to get an army very quickly. Like here, if I had no troops at all in this army, I could recruit 10, 11 units instantly and fight a battle. But what makes Helman Ghorst so special? It's his zombie benefit. So faction-wide, he gets the bounce spell Lesser Raid Dead for corpse cards and mortis engines. And the DLC he comes with does include the corpse cards and mortis engines. So playing without that DLC can be something of an issue because corpse cards do add buffs to your army. But then he gets Raised Dead pull capacity of +4 for zombies. 10% casualty replenishment, always nice to have. And then enables poison attacks for zombies, skeleton spearmen, and skeleton warriors. Poison reduces the damage that someone... it's not showing up here, but poison reduces the damage that the target will do. But what makes Ghorst so incredible is not what you might see there, it's a special skill tree. That does mean I guess you could confederate with him, though good luck getting here as any other vampire counts. But what he gets, when we look at it, he gets 12 melee attack for zombies, all armies faction-wide, 10% ward saves for zombies faction-wide, battle healing cap 500% for zombie units faction-wide, weapon strength 50% for zombies faction-wide, and the Ravenous Dead, which replenishes their HP, so you don't need to heal them individually, they're just going to do it by default with that. And some very significant benefits in terms of upkeep for his own army and battle healing cap for his own army. Basically, he buffs zombies through the roof. Zombies are incredibly cheap units. Like, they only cost 13 upkeep to maintain for his own army. For other armies, if I look at it, it's still 13. It's very, very cheap. And that is essential to what makes Ghorst so powerful. Because not only is he buffing zombies faction-wide through the stratosphere, zombies being so incredibly cheap means that you can maintain very large armies of them for very, very little. So if I were to recruit an army here, let's say a vampire lord, okay, inflate rock, then I can recruit a bunch of zombies, just free zombies instantly, then that's just going to be 350 gold. Even if I had the full stack, this is a good example. I have a full stack of zombies here, and it's 641 upkeep. But most of that upkeep is not because of the zombies, it's because of the hero, the lord leading it, and the corpse card. Like the corpse card is 145, the leader is 244, so almost 400 of the 641 is because of those 2 units. The zombies themselves are insignificant. Like they're 14 upkeep, 13 upkeep. It says 14 here, but yeah, it's 14 upkeep to maintain them. That is pretty powerful because it means you can, like I have 2 armies here, This is our turn 20. I have 2 armies here, another army here, another army here. I have 4 stacks, and I can certainly maintain another stacks. You can spread around the world fighting with zombies. And you won't lose a battle because of all the significant regeneration, melee attack, melee defense, ward save benefits. You also have research on top of the things he gets. You have research, vanguard deployment for zombies, melee defense for zombies, speed for zombies, recruitment, raise costs, physical resistance 20%. When you add it all together, zombies gain a lot. For regular research that other vampire counts do have, but combined with what Ghorst is giving, specifically regeneration, melee attack, weapon strength, he is adding an enormous amount, and that means zombie doom stacks early on can do a lot of things. Only for him, of course, or unless you confederate them, but even then, even if you confederate them, you're not going to have the poison attacks, for instance, or the ability to use lesser rates dead for corpse cards, because it's not just like, oh, you have just some zombies. No, you have powerful zombies, and then you have the ability to raise the dead during a battle using corpse cards. That adds to an incredible amount of power. You could genuinely make a corpse card doom stack if you're playing as him. He's not going to be the best melee combatant, but doesn't matter. None of that matters. You could just go around the world with 2 free stacks of zombies, conquering everything in your path, and the AI will not be able to stop you. Hell, by the time the endgame event triggers, you could have dozens of stacks of zombies. I'm not even joking. Like, I'm not controlling a lot of territory here. If I were to control a lot of territory, my economy would obviously go through the roof, and I could maintain vast quantities of zombies across the entire world. And while they don't do so well in auto-resolve, it doesn't matter if you bring 3 times as many units as the enemy has. You'll win in every situation with that. That's what makes Ghorst so incredibly good. And number 3 is Grom the Paunch with the Warden and the Paunch DLC for the greenskins. This DLC, as I've talked before, adds a lot. River trolls, stone trolls, etc. But what makes Grom so incredibly special? Is it his faction effects? Not necessarily, although that global recruitment duration is pretty nice, because it means that wherever you are around the world, you can instantly global recruit, like you can recruit within a turn goblins, goblin archers, or goblins in general. That would otherwise require 2 turns. Because of global recruitment, you can do it in 1 turn. That gives you the power to mass armies in ways that other greenskin factions, which already are good enough in that respect, but gives you more power to mass armies. Grom himself is also a pretty solid enough legendary lord with growth for all provinces, casualty replenishment for his own army, buff to pump wagons, income from post-battle loot by a substantial amount for himself. Attacks cause a rattled effect, right? And benefits to goblin units. People talk about Skarsnik being powerful goblins. Yeah, he gets a powerful upkeep benefit, but it's like, you want to talk about benefits to goblins? The Goblin Tide waits for you. That 15 armor for goblin units for his own army. There are some substantial benefits, but that's not why Grom is on this list. His combat ability, the trolls, the global recruitment, none of that fucking matters. But what puts Grom on this list? The cauldron. The magical cauldron of bullshit that Grom has. This cauldron is incredible. You can only add 1 ingredient of each type to it, and you get 4 slots, up to 4 slots. But what it adds is very, very significant. So for instance, in the redline scale, you will be able to earn green spores, like just follow his advice. You will be able to get in growth to all provinces. And that's something that will be available pretty quickly. Hero cost and hero action cost, cooldown to all spells. Passive ability Frenzy for Goblin and Night Goblin units. Or the blue skill, which is actually where it gets more significant. The blue skill, +8 control for all provinces, 10% income from all buildings, global recruitment duration, -1. Just remember, he already gets a global recruitment benefit by default. You add on top of it, and only he has access to this cauldron. Income from sacking and looting settlements, 10%. All these wonderful, wonderful benefits. One of the ones that you can get, like once when you kill Bretonnians, and you're certainly gonna be dealing with Bretonnians from the very beginning, because you do fight them. Casualty replenishment, gain a random amount of gold. Literally, as long as you have scrap to cook, you're not going to run out of money. And that's one of the things very few other campaigns can say. Oh, it's like, oh, you ran out of money? Okay, just use your faction specific resource and just get more. And that's the thing. Significant public order benefits, army benefits, money benefits, you name them. Grom has them. Grom has them from the Cauldron. The Greenskins are a powerful race. One of the most powerful races factions in the entire game. Grom is substantially better than any other Greenskin faction. Like, Grimgor is a better combatant. Skarsnik can afford more goblins, but that Cauldron, the abilities that Cauldron gives you are unparalleled to anything any other Greenskin Lord can provide to their campaign. And that's the thing about this list. It's about legendary lords that offer something substantial, that do have a different playstyle than the rest of their faction has, the rest of their race has. And Grom's playstyle is absolutely very different. Generally, when you're playing the game, just gonna say this, and I'm gonna toggle the fog of war. Generally, when you're playing the game, a situation like this would be a misery. Why is that? Well, because given the situation, I'm surrounded by factions, dwarves, Bretonnians, wood elves, you name it, empire, all of which hate me. And they will declare war against you, even as Grom. But you know what? Because you're so powerful, because you can get significant replenishment, public order, money, army benefits, you give no shits. You conquer the entire world. You conquer Bretonnia, Reichland, the wood elves. You burn everything that stands in your way to the ground, and they can't stop you. They can't come even close to stopping you. The Greenskins are already in a situation where they become a steamroller. Grom is steamroller plus. Like, if there was a ranking list, he would be S plus on that list of all the legendary lords, the Greenskin legendary lords, just because he gains so much. Having growth, so much growth, means that it doesn't matter where you are. Having income benefits for all buildings, control benefits, means rebellions are not gonna happen at all, ever. Like, if you get a rebellion as Grom the Paunch, you've done something incredibly wrong playing him. And just keep in mind something. He's doing this in a situation where he's in unfavorable climate, unpleasant climate. He's gonna pay more for buildings. He's gonna have construction time, less upkeep, and he still doesn't care. He's a wrecking ball, one that you can dominate the map with ease. I'm not just saying dominate the map. Plenty of factions can do that. Plenty of lords can do that. But just doing it with ease, very few other legendary lords, factions, races can do it in the same way that Grom can do it. None of the other legendary lords of the Greenskins can do it in the same way that Grom can do it. Oh yeah, play Grimgor. He's in a safe position in the mountains. He can dominate, sure, but he's safe. Grom isn't safe, and he still doesn't care. That's what makes him exceptional. And number 2, we have Archaon the Everchosen. The Warriors of Chaos and Champions of Chaos, each of them does have some different playstyle, but by and large they all rely on vassals. They all use vassals for income, for souls, and so on. But what makes Archaon exceptional? And honestly, I could have filled this entire list with legendary lords from the Warriors and Champions of Chaos. I decided to limit it to one per race, faction, whatever. And Archaon is by far and away the strongest and most interesting, actually, of all of the legendary lords of the Warriors or Champions of Chaos. Though Festus has some things going for him with the Plagues, of course, Valkia with her movement range, Kolic with his weapon strength. They all do have powerful things going for them, but I don't think there's quite anything like Archaon in the game. Kolic being strong in a one-on-one fight, that's all well and good. Certainly he has that going for him. But if you never need to have a one-on-one fight, what if you just dominate the planet through vassals? Vassals and vassals and vassals with a faction where it's much easier to do that than anyone else. Vassals and military allies. All you see in blue here through the diplomatic status are either vassals, the vast majority of them are vassals, or military defensive allies. But what makes Archaon so good to play as a campaign? What makes him exceptional? Is it his lord effects, his faction benefits? Well, he does get certainly some things for his own army, but that's kind of it. He does mainly get things for his army in terms of certain units recruitment. But no, it's the faction-wide benefits that only he has. And so let's go over this. He gets one more gift of Chaos Undivided from the very start. So he starts with 2. Much easier to get that going, get those benefits. Chaos Undivided does provide some really good gifts. I'd say it provides overall, like in terms of having large numbers of them, it provides the best gifts overall. Because so the Mono Gods, yeah, they might offer 1 or 2 gifts. Chaos Undivided offers at least 3. Dragon Ogres, Hell Cannons, Missile Resistance, even more. Then you get 10% research rate for each vassal. To give you an idea how powerful this is, I'm at a point where pretty much any research I'm doing, like outside of like stuff that would take a very long time, but I'm at the point where a lot of research that I have available here would either take 2 for turns, maybe a bit longer than that, but yeah. It would take 9 turns to unlock that, for instance. It would take 8 turns to unlock that. So you gain an enormous research benefit. I have 18 vassals, that's 180% extra research rate. That alone would make Archaon incredible. But it's not just that, that's just the start. And actually that's the least of the effects. He gains 25 souls per turn from each vassal. 18 or 25, you can do the math. Or rather, the game will do the math for you. That's 400 souls from each vassal. Even though I don't have a lot of souls, and I'm so spread out that I'm not necessarily gaining a lot of souls per turn, it doesn't matter. I can maintain all of these gifts of chaos, and I have quite a few of them active right now. I have 3 undivided, 3 monogods, so that's 6 gifts of chaos. I can maintain these largely through the vassals. And if I were to get 2 more vassals, they would pay for all of the cost that I'm currently having from the gifts of chaos. Get more and more and more vassals, you will actually gain souls per turn without having to fight battles, loot settlements. And having an enormous amount of vassals has an extra benefit, of course. For every faction that can do it. It means that anyone that declares war on me, he's not just fighting me, he's fighting all of these guys. All of my friends, so to speak. And they're just gonna march armies on their own against any enemy that I face. And they're likely going to win. Because even if the enemy AI can win 1 or 2 battles, let's say this army of Sarls get wiped out by the Empire, well, it doesn't matter because the Wintertooth is nearby and they're gonna march in their army. There's no winning here for the never mind that the Sarl, that there's the Tong as well, who also have their own army. That's the point. That's the value of playing Warriors of Chaos, just letting your vassals do things for you. But the final benefit to talk about, diplomatic relations plus 10 with all the Chaos factions, be it Demons of Chaos, Warriors of Chaos, Beastmen, and Norska. So literally, you get to, I have right now, with every single faction, demonic faction, all that, I get 180 plus to diplomatic relations. So it doesn't matter how they might feel towards me. Like if I go to the Puppets of Misrule, right, you can see that I'm gaining 187 plus 180 from that benefit. Like if I didn't have that, they would actually be despising me. They would likely go to war against me in this case. But because I have that significant benefit, I can get the non-aggression pact. And then I can get the ball rolling. He'll eventually forgive me for that situation. He's not going to declare war against me. And then he will eventually... he can either be vassalized or he can become a military ally. And this is where a reliability rating is very low because I threatened certain factions as well. Like Archaon gets such a major diplomatic benefit that you can get factions to basically give you free stuff. Let's go to the Sarl. Let's see if I... No, that would require a bit too much. Let me see if I can find someone. No, they wouldn't give it because...
Straight to business. Where shall we raid next?
Oh, look at that.
Are ready.
Hello, look at that situation. Okay, let's say Troll Fjord. I can literally get the settlement for free. That is incredible. And that's something people have noticed, by the way, about Archaon. I can get the settlement for free, and then I go like, okay, have it back.
The longships are ready.
I can either get the trade agreement and a lot of money. And this is not with any cheese. This is not like abusing mechanics. This is not like abusing anything. This is by default, because you get such a incredible diplomatic benefits with all factions that any deal you want, right? Anything you want to get, you will get. And that's where the benefit comes in. And I then trade back, get 1500 until they run out of money. Again, I don't consider this a cheese. This is not unintended, if you will. This is not broken or anything like that. This is just how the game works. Because you build better diplomatic relations with faction, they're going to be far more willing to give you stuff for free even. That is normal. But Archaon gets such an enormous diplomatic relations benefit that you literally get stuff for free without having done anything for a faction. You can treat them like crap. As long as you have a lot of diplomatic relations from your faction, for that, by having a lot of vassals, you just are an unstoppable horde. There's nothing quite like Archaon when we think about factions in the game. Like Grom is an unstoppable steamroller. Archaon can gain so much money that you can maintain vast armies. You can genuinely be at such a deficit, but you can gain gold every turn by just trading settlements with your vassals. Your forced vassals, to be clear. The ones that are associated with dark fortresses, like these guys. Or vassals in general. Or allies as well. It's not just them. Like, it's much going to be easier with vassals, but it's not just vassals. The sheer potential of this means that you can spread around the map much faster, much quicker, and far easier. This is turn 56 of a campaign, and the Empire basically is non-existent. I mean, some provinces still exist. There's obviously Stirland and all that, but outside of that, the Empire has ceased to exist by turn 56. Norska, much of the Chaos Wastes, and obviously there is quite a bit of potential when it comes to that. Now, Archaon is top dog of the Warriors of Chaos for a reason. He's not the fighter as Kolic. Absolutely, he doesn't have the teleportation bullshit like Be'lakor. But what he has is really powerful. And finally, at number 1, the most exceptional legendary paid DLC lord in the entire game, Ikkit Claw. Now, I've talked about legendary lords here that create another early game stack with the Hawk Riders, ones that have a cauldron that gives them significant faction-wide benefits, those that make zombies from trash units into top-tier early game units and can go around the map, or factions that can get so many vassals and get so many benefits that they can literally print money by using those vassals. But Ikkit Claw, he's something else even by those standards, I feel. What makes him so special? Well, you have to know something. He is so incredibly good as a legendary lord that he is considered the baseline for his faction. He is considered the best legendary lord of his faction by far away. Frot is pretty decent as well. Queek as well is pretty decent, but I'd say Frot is better than Queek. But those guys are decent. They're not exceptional. Ikkit Claw is exceptional. Now, the Skaven are more of a grower faction. They start out incredibly weak, only being able to recruit Skaven slaves, then getting clan rats, all that kind of stuff. So they're not the strongest faction from the start. However, Ikkit Claw's DLC made them really powerful with Warplock Jezzails and Rallying Gunners, though there's certainly going to be issues using them given all the minor settlement siege battles that there are out there. So some limitations with that. Now, Ikkit Claw, in terms of lord effects, doesn't gain necessarily all that much, though he does have a really nice upkeep benefit to weapon teams, so Jezzails, Rallying Gunners, Warpfire Throwers. That is nice because you can gain significant, you can maintain more armies of these weapon teams, like you can get the full stack with him and it won't necessarily break the bank, so to speak. because it can be expensive maintaining weapon team armies. However, it's the laboratory, the forbidden workshop as it's called. You get a research benefit, you get loyalty to new recruits, pretty nice construction costs, but it is the workshop where we have to look to understand the power of this faction. So the laboratory mainly is going to be about buffing your units, right? So if I go to weapon teams, I look at random gunners, they can get replenished ammunition, reload time reduction, ammunition, and missile strength. Or warpfire throwers, missile strength, armor, concentrated flame, right? And the more you spend in this, the more upgrades you unlock. So you can get an item that gives you missile strength for a unit, missile resistance in stock, or flaming attacks for a unit, or unlocks special units as well to be able to recruit, basically regiments of renown. So some really nice stuff over here. However, this tab, the Doom Rocket tab, is when you realize this is a medieval fantasy setting by and large, and we have nuclear weapons. Genuinely, tactical nuclear weapons that you can use in battle. In any battle that you can have. You can make more of them. If you have food, if you have the fuel for it, you can make more of it. And you can get benefits as well. Increases storage limit, chance of winds of magic increasing, 100% chance to recover warp fuel after using a Doom Rocket in battle. That's pretty nice to have. 25% chance to build an extra Doom Rocket. Yeah, Ikkit Claw is something else. The Skaven aren't the best race in the game. They have issues. They have early game issues, and late game, some of their really good stuff is too expensive. But being able to use bloody nuclear weapons in a game like this, that's not just power. That is ridiculous. You are ridiculous if you're playing Ikkit Claw using nuclear weapons. But he is considered the best way to play Skaven because he gets so many. He adds so much to this faction, to this race. He's going to be far more powerful than any other legendary lord in the game because of what he's providing for that workshop. He gets better units, better range units crucially, better doomstack units if you will. He gains better units for that. He has nuclear weapons. He has an upkeep benefit. Yeah, he is scary. Like when you start going with Ikkit Claw, you realize how scary he is. Archaon may have his vassals do all the fighting. Ikkit Claw doesn't care. He just nukes everyone. Genuinely. There's nukes on the overworld, as someone once said. I believe those are available for everyone. The Doom Rocket, however, is an Ikkit Claw exclusive. Only available to Clan Scarire. So, that is all there is to say. Costin signing out. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and enable notifications. And hey, if you want to play some overpowered DLC lords that actually do add a lot, each of them adds a lot to their own faction. That's the thing about this list. It's about legendary lords that adds a different playstyle to a faction. You can be damn certain that adding nuclear weapons to a faction is going to add a lot to that particular faction. And I would actually say this DLC, like, people consider this DLC essential to being able to play Skaven, and they're absolutely right. Stay tuned for more.